I read a Colleen Hoover book. Now your response to this could probably be one of two things. You're either very proud of me and very happy that I, Connor, your resident book nerd on YouTube, has joined the Hoover Club. Or you could be extremely disappointed that I succumbed to everything you need to succumb to read a Colleen Hoover book. Regardless, that's why Colleen Hoover as an author interests me so much. She seems to be incredibly polarizing. I read a lot, but I don't typically lean towards, I guess you would say, the type of books that Colleen Hoover writes. And I did indeed read a Colleen Hoover book, the one by the name of Verity. This seemed like the best middle ground for me. And I said, you know what? If I'm gonna give one of her books a chance, this seems like the one that would probably suit me the best. Her books are, in some cases, nauseatingly popular. And I mean that in the most admirable of terms. Go Colleen Hoover. She is getting the bag right now. I saw AP's 10 best-selling books of 2022, and she was pretty much all 10 of them. I have some thoughts. I want to talk about my experience reading Colleen Hoover and maybe theorize a little bit why she is as popular as she is. So a good place to start is just talking about what this book is all about, because when this book released, it generated a whole additional craze on top of the name and the power attached to the name of Colleen Hoover. So Verity. The main character is this author named Lowen Ashley. She's struggling, she's pretty much down and out at this point, but her agent brings her this job of a lifetime. The husband of one of the world's best-selling authors requests that Lowen Ashley be the one who pretty much ghostwrites and finishes the series that Verity Crawford, #1 best-selling worldwide author, is unable to finish now because she is incapacitated due to health reasons. The author, Lowen Ashley, ends up pretty much taking residence in Verity Crawford's home along with her husband, Jeremy Crawford, in order to sort through her office, look through some past documents, some past notes, try to scrounge up some information, some source material so she can get started on these books. But what she doesn't expect to find in that office is this secret autobiography that Verity Crawford had been working on that reveals a ton of really dark, terrible, interesting, polarizing, hard to believe information about her own life. And in addition to that, details about the day that their daughter died. So instead of telling Jeremy, Verity Crawford's husband, about this autobiography she's discovered, she decides to keep it a secret. She knows that it's going to devastate him if she tells him anything about this discovery, but soon a sort of relationship begins to brew right in front of the incapacitated Verity. It's very nerve-wracking the whole time. So as she progresses through this autobiography, which we read in a sort of dual narration between what Lowen is experiencing and what Verity Crawford wrote in this autobiography that Lowen discovered, we start to learn more about Verity's condition, Verity's character, and Lowen and Jeremy start to develop a bit of a connection here that makes it hard for Lowen to keep this a secret any longer. So that's my spoiler-free gist. Now, what do other people think about this book? Because, as I said, Colleen Hoover is one of the most popular authors in the world at this point. At the time of filming, this has almost 1.6 million ratings on Goodreads, along with over 150,000 reviews, and the average score for this book is a 4.39 out of 5. So that's pretty good by my estimation. There's a lot to say about a number of different characters in this book, so let me get into some of my thoughts, and I'm generally going to organize this between what I liked about this book and what I maybe didn't like all that much. So my likes for Verity by Colleen Hoover. I think Colleen Hoover did a solid job building tension throughout this novel. And I may be dipping my toe into some spoilers here, so if you haven't read this yet, maybe, go watch something else, another video, feel free to do so. As Lowen sort of reads through Verity's autobiography, you learn more and more about Verity's character and the gruesome details, very disturbing accounts from Verity herself in this autobiography make you question how honest Verity is about her current state in this novel, and puts you in Lowen's shoes and makes you very cautious about whether or not Verity is actually watching Lowen and the husband, whether or not Verity is faking it this whole time, and it makes you question whether or not the reality you are experiencing within this book is actually real. It makes you worry for the remaining child in the Crawford family. It makes you worried for Jeremy Crawford, albeit I really didn't like him. I'll save that for dislikes, but she does a great job of building tension in this and keeping it well paced. paced. I feel like similar to the 90-minute movie craze due to like shortening attention spans, this book plays very well into the hands of those who like short chapters. So when you're packing this much detail, this much emotion into short segments for each chapter, it can really keep the pace up and make it hard to put down. Whether or not you're absolutely loving the book as much as your favorite book of all time, it's going to naturally make you want to turn the page if you're creating that tension, because with the building of tension, you want that tension to be resolved at some point. So it definitely is what I would call a quote-unquote page turner. The first one is I found generally everyone unlikable, and I feel like Colleen Hoover didn't do any of them any favors in trying to get you to like any of the characters. I think Lowen, the main character, the author, obviously she's been through some stuff. She's not having the best time. Her situation isn't ideal, but she's just like a generally unlikable person, and she's doing something that I feel like not a ton of people would be totally cool with if this whole Verity situation with her being completely incapacitated, unable to talk, move, do anything at this point in her own home with her husband there, she just starts willingly initiating a relationship with Jeremy Crawford, Verity's husband. How am I supposed to care at all if the whole idea is being concerned for Lowen's safety? Why am I going to care about her safety if you're making her an unlikable character? That's why I found it hard to really, I was interested to see what the outcome was, but I wasn't turning the page to see and hope that Lowen would be safe in the end. I didn't like Lowen. I didn't like Jeremy at all. I feel like it's hard to get a reader to root for a set of characters who are just like willingly cheating on their spouses right in front of them. And the kid is in the house, and some people would label it as risque. Putting yourself in the shoes of someone who may be telling the truth about being in the situation. I was like, these are just terrible people. I'm just reading about bad people who, while yes, it can be like trendy to like morally gray characters, this isn't morally gray. These are just bad people who have absolutely no self-control and no willingness to be thorough in their discovery or their wonderings about whether Verity is telling the truth or not. This novel can be cut so quickly by the event in which Lowen presents the husband with this autobiography she found. Instead, she decides to like squirrel it away, and it becomes her guilty pleasure, her thing to read. And again, it's just adding up all these unlikable actions, all these unlikable traits on Lowen, which it's gonna be hard for me to like a book if I hate the main character. And again, in regards to Jeremy, it seems like he means well for the most part, but it's tough to say that in a wholehearted way when you contextualize this book as this guy who is kind of riding the coattails of his incredibly wealthy wife, and obviously they have marital issues that are completely outlined in this autobiography, which the validity of everything going on in there is questionable to begin with. But regardless, he just seems kind of douchey. He just doesn't seem like a great guy based on the actions that occur between him and Lowen. With the kid in the house, like, come on, man. With the kid, yeah, the kid's fine. He's kind of annoying. And in regards to the writing, it's just rudimentary. If I were to describe the prose in Verity, it's just bleh. It just feels like you're kind of skimming through it because that's all the language it within offers you as a reader. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be challenged by the prose in every single book I read, especially with popular fiction. Don't get me wrong, I don't need that in every single book I read. But again, at the same time, if I'm preceded in my approach of a book with this unquantifiable amount of praise, my expectations are going to be pretty high. If the question at the root of it is like, why do people like these books so much? It's so simple at times, it almost makes it too digestible, where the return on your investment in time is, what am I getting out of this? It has you asking, okay, what else at a lot of different points. It lacked detail where I wanted more. It gave extra detail where I didn't need it. And it was altogether a pretty predictable storyline. And I feel like the catch with that is the ending, whether or not people think that Verity was completely honest in her sort of confession at the end, or whether or not it was part of this sort of act, this autobiography that she claimed was a sort of writing exercise in order to get her back into the game. This plot twist ending that so stereotypically accompanies so many thrillers. Now, based on everything I just said, it may seem like I never want to pick up another Colleen Hoover book again, but it is incredibly interesting to me how popular her books are with such a wide range of different types of readers and such a wide audience. So if every book of hers is similar to Verity, whether that's in terms of the prose and the writing or in terms of the plot structure, whatever it might be, the types of characters and situations she explores, maybe I would be willing to pick up another one, because there was, whatever it might might be, something that compelled me to continue to turn the page, and I read this in a matter of a day or two. So something made me want to keep reading it. I just still cannot figure out what it was. Find it so intriguing how polarizing of a figure she has become with the fame that she's accrued. I've heard amazing things about her books, and I've heard people talk about them as incredibly toxic in their portrayal of domestic abuse and domestic violence and relationship mechanics. But honestly, I'm really not one to judge that based on the fact that I've only read one book by her. So did I come to a conclusion here? I really don't know. She might be popular because of how simple this writing is, how easy it is to just eat it up and keep turning page after page in that sort of completionist achievement sort of mindset. And it's no shade, it's no hate to Colleen Hoover. She's clearly doing something right and tapping something within the literary marketplace, which you can only praise. But for what? Why is this happening? I don't know. My question to you, are there Colleen Hoover books that I should be reading in order to either adjust my opinion? If so, let me know down in the comments, point me towards them, because clearly she's not just having a moment. She is the moment. She is selling books like crazy, and I really want to know why. All right, I think that's pretty much everything I have. So, yeah. Peace.